All right, hey everyone, I'm going to cover chapter 11. I think it was supposed to be covered over 2 days, but I'm going to cover it in one video. So let's go ahead and get started. Chapter 11 is about relational development. So let's talk about the importance of social relationships. Social interactions with others are very critical to our everyday human functioning, right? So it's very important to have these social relationships. We cannot just be in social isolation. Ooh, sorry, I forgot to mute my TV. So isolation is actually one of the most severe forms of punishment. Thinking about shows like Orange is the New Black, where you see people actually go crazy, or if you watch any other sort of prison show, when they put you in isolation, you've done something bad, but all that time you have to sit there and think is really bad for you, right? So it's very severe. Our interactions are really thought to be verbal, but actually about 80% of our social interactions are comprised of nonverbal communication. So this is really important because we are communicating indirectly through our nonverbal behaviors, but we think it's all based on verbal. Moving forward, how do you communicate intimacy? Nonverbal behaviors are one of the primary ways in which we initiate and maintain interpersonal relationships, right? So we can initiate interpersonal relationships by looking at somebody and doing the goo eyes, or if you watch The Office, Jim looks at Pam lovingly all the time, right? Initiating and maintaining. So there are 4 different perspectives. The first being romantic courtship, so dating. Second, non-romantic courtships, friendships, relationships with family members. Third is closeness with strangers and acquaintances. So when we want strangers to feel close to us, we're going to initiate this relationship using our nonverbal behaviors. And closeness with established relationships. I'm so sorry. When we want to maintain that closeness, we use nonverbals as well. So there are some courtship behaviors. Make sure you understand these and can keep these separate. There are Ch11s, and then I believe we talk about givens. So courtship behaviors are approach, acknowledge, and talk. Approach is getting 2 people in the same proximity, right? So you're both out at Joe Mama's on a Saturday night. You are in the same proximity. However, you have to be in the same area. So you're on the dance floor, okay? Acknowledging is the nonverbal invitation to begin talking, right? So you look over and you acknowledge each other. We're not only in the same proximity, I see you. And then talk. So you increase your touch behaviors. You might increase eye gazing. You might increase the synchrony and nonverbal cues, okay? So these are courtship behaviors that initiate the relationship. This is what I want to do, okay? So we talk about Ch11's elements of courtship. The first is courtship readiness. So you begin to prepare your body for the interaction. You do this by standing up straight, straightening your shoulders, things like that. Second, you're going to position for courtship. So you stroke your hair, you rearrange your makeup, you adjust your clothing, right? Right now for females, it's pretty popular to tuck shirts into pants, jeans, whatever. Bodysuits are pretty popular. And so you might adjust your bodysuit or retuck your shirt in to get that perfect tuck to make it look like you care about it, but you don't really care, right? And then actions of appeal or invitation. So this is your flirtatious glances, your gaze holding. You might cross your legs to expose your thigh, right? It's all about appeal of invitation, right? I want to let you know, like, hey, I'm interested in you in some way. But then there are quasi-courtship behaviors. So these are flirtatious behaviors that aren't really meant to be taken seriously. So teasing somebody of the opposite sex that you are interested, right? It's just for fun. But it also depends on the receiver's ability to read between the lines and not take your behaviors too seriously. So those are Ch11's courtship behaviors. These next ones are Gibbon's 5 stages of nonverbal courtship. The first is attention, right? So you have interest. You are communicating readiness to interact. You preen or primp, and preening is an effort to make yourself look attractive. These are, sorry, incomplete displays of interest. Okay, so the first step, sorry about that, is attention. The second is recognition. So you respond to expressed interest. This is where you non-verbally signal receptive attitudes. You might smile at the other person or do the eyebrow thing or make eye contact with them, right? You are recognizing and responding to interest from somebody else, or you are providing that and they are recognizing it, right? So if they don't recognize it, it's not going to work, okay? The third is interaction. So you approach and you talk. So there's interactional synchrony and submissive behaviors. Synchrony occurs if you're hitting it off with the other person. There are submissive behaviors that happen, and this is higher pitched voices or using softer voices, right? During the interaction, we've seen it in several movies where the girl meets some hot guy and she's like, oh my God, everything's so wonderful. You're so great, right? Her voice is not actually that high pitched, but she wants to give a submissive behavior, okay? The fourth is the sexual arousal. So this is exchanging intimacies and physical forms of affection. So intimate touching, like kissing. This is the appearance of behaviors that are similar to parent-child interactions. So teasing, grooming, cuddling, clinging. However, unlike parent-child interactions, sexual arousal, the fourth stage, is not about that parent-child relationship, right? The kissing that you're doing with somebody that you are sexually attracted to is not the same, teasing, grooming, cuddling that your mom did to you when you were a child. Just want to make that very clear. And then the fifth stage is the resolution stage. So this is the sexual relation stage. There is a decrease in courtship behaviors after this because most people think that when you've hit this stage, you don't have to try as much. And that's absolutely not true, but that's what people think. So all these courtship behaviors, they don't happen as much after that has occurred. So there are some dynamics of intimacy regulation. These factors combine to determine if the couple takes the next step toward intimacy or if they, just fizzle out. So the cognitive valence theory. This one is kind of tricky, so make sure you really understand the cognitive valence theory for the exam. There's an increase in immediacy behaviors by person A that leads to positive responses by person B only if these following three things happen. First, person B has to notice and perceive the immediacy, right? So you're flirting with your significant other, right? Say you aren't dating them yet. You see them out and you try to flirt with them. You are person A. Your significant other, or the person you want to be your significant other, is person B. Person B has to pick up on your flirting behaviors, okay? So they have to pick up that you are interested. If they don't, this will not work. Second, the second thing that has to happen for a positive response in the person that you want to be with, your behavior has to cause some sort of moderate arousal in person B. So they have to not only pick up on it, they have to be, kind of aroused by it and want that to happen. And this will activate their schemata. So this will activate the knowledge determining if they're going to be receptive to the increased intimacy, right? So we all know what we like, what we don't like when we're seeking a partner, right? Like for me, I don't like to be touched. So anybody who would try and hit on me at the bar and touch my shoulder or my back or my face, that's automatically going to end anything that could have happened. I don't like that, right? For you, maybe it's touch, maybe it's eye contact, maybe it's that weird like eyebrow things like, right? You know what you like, you know what you don't like. Sometimes it's tricky because you may not know what the other person likes. So you just kind of have to take a guess. So the behaviors that you're doing has to somewhat cause a moderate level of arousal, and this activates, do I like this? Do I not like this? And third, the schemata has to be completely positive, right? So for intimate relationships to develop over time, promoting closeness, affection, this cognitive valence theory shows us why we're going to accept some intimacy attempts and reject others. And the immediacy is bringing yourself, in case you didn't know this, directly into situations, directly into contact, directly into these flirting or courtship behaviors. Okay. The next slide is an activity. We're obviously not doing that. So let's talk about romantic relationships. And I'm really sad because that activity was really fun. I asked you to put things in order of what would happen first versus last. And it's thing like Facebook official, introducing to your friends, getting a family heirloom, moving in together, having sex, getting married, things like that. My favorite one on there is licking each other's ice cream cones. And that's something that everybody is like, no, throw it out. So I really wish we could have done that activity because it's my favorite of the entire semester, but you know, coronavirus. So committed romantic relationships. So to establish a relationship, we use and we see a lot of nonverbal behaviors. But once it's established, there's going to be variations in the way that we use our signals, our nonverbal signals, to communicate this closeness. I don't know what just said. Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, things popped up on my computer screen. So we might see hugs, and hugs might turn into kisses, right? We use variations once we've been in these committed relationships. So those who are in long-term relationships tend to use less nonverbal behaviors associated with affection and intimacy because they feel as though they don't have to show all these behaviors, right? If you've dated somebody for a year, that year mark, you're using different nonverbal behaviors than you were a year before. But over time, to maintain relationships, it's the quality of the act, not the quantity, right? So you could tell me you love me 500 times, but if I feel like it's not a quality I love you, then I don't care. And that's verbal, I know. You could hold my hand every single day, every single place we go. But if it feels like you're doing it just because it's routine or just because that's what you think you should do, it's not going to matter. So how sincere something is, what is the magnitude of the expression? Long-term relationships are also subject to modeling relational characteristics. So we start to acquire one's facial, postural, gestural styles. This basically means that the people in the relationship look and act alike. So think about your friends that you've been around too much. Think about your significant other that you've been around too much. We're all social distancing. We're all on quarantine. If you have a live-in relational partner, this is a true test. Are you going to kill each other? I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. But you might start acting like your significant other. I know it's really gross and, it's disgusting. But when I've had pop, any sort of carbonation really, I belch like a trucker. It's very loud. It's very disgusting. I know. I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't have told you that. When Richard and I first started dating 4 years ago, over 4 years ago, neither of us did it around each other because we're in this like honeymoon stage, like, oh, he needs to find me so attractive. That's so unattractive. We have been in quarantine. We do puzzles. We watch Netflix. He plays a guitar, which he doesn't know any songs, so it's just bad. We're very used to each other. We have stocked up on some pop, and I have at least one a day. And I belch in front of him, right? And he has been around me so much that he's also doing it. We're modeling each other's gestural styles, nonverbal habits, right? But he also starts doing my same gestures and things. The other day I said, "Oh, that's not surprising." And I made that direct face. And now he's doing it to me, and I find it very annoying, right? So, committed for romantic relationships, long term, you're going to start modeling each other. There's no way around it. The next slide is about being a TA for COMM308. I'm going to email Dr. Myers tomorrow, and I will get that information out to you. I don't know what we're doing about TA positions for the fall, so I will get that out to you. Moving forward, we have increasing intimacy, so social penetration perspective. You can look at this chart for all of the dimensions. But basically, it talks about, richness. What does that look like? What are the examples of this? So richness, greater breadth of communication. So more topics that we talk about. What might that look like non-verbally? I use more facial expressions. So if you want to look at the social penetration, I think that is helpful. The chart is right there though, so I'm not going to go through it directly. There are some relational maintenance behaviors, and these are routine behaviors that are going to assist in maintaining or increasing the quality of the relationship. So first, positivity. Seriously, no duh. Being positive in a relationship, being cheerful and optimistic, that's going to really increase your satisfaction. You are going to be very happy with your relationship if your partner is happy. Duh. There's also understanding, so a lack of judgment, a forgiving nature. We tend to be happier and most satisfied in our relationships if we do something wrong and our partner can forgive us. And then self-disclosure, so sharing your thoughts, your feelings, your fears. Not saying this has to happen all the time, and not saying this has to happen right away, but being able to share what's going on in your life, being able to talk to your partner about that makes you feel better, and having them react to your feelings in a real way, that makes you feel better. Relationship talks. So what do you like about the relationship? Thoughts about what's going on. Assurances, discussions about the future, right? You are a meaningful person in my life. Maybe you have been in a serious relationship where you have seriously talked about an engagement and marriage. That assures you, that makes you more satisfied. This person is thinking about a future with me. Tasks, sharing responsibilities, sharing work fairly. Now, maybe in a relationship, I often think of like household tasks, but there's relational tasks as well, such as like, I don't know, in any relationship I've ever been in, it's always been I fly, you buy, right? So I'll drive, you pay for dinner. Now, if it's something like a 4-course meal at a fancy schmancy restaurant, maybe that wouldn't work. Or maybe you pick up the check at the next fancy schmancy restaurant, right? You're sharing the responsibilities. But it could also be household chores. So typically at my house, Richard does the dishes. I despise dishes. He usually vacuums as well. I also don't like vacuuming. I don't know why. But I typically do the laundry. I fold the laundry and I put it away. So there's a give and take. And then networks, spending time with each other's friends and family. Think about a time when you have been in a relationship where you did not like one of his parents or his siblings. I keep saying his, I'm sorry, her siblings, their siblings. It doesn't have to be a male-female relationship, and it doesn't have to be the female being unhappy. Men can be unhappy with friends and family as well. I'm so sorry. That was not my intention. My ex-boyfriend, I didn't really know his oldest brother. I adored his baby brother. He was 5 years younger than us. Didn't like his older brother, the one directly older than him. He also didn't like me, and I don't know why. There was a lot of animosity between the two of us, and I really don't know why. Clearly, we were not satisfied because I didn't want to spend time with his family. If it was like just his little brother or his mom and his dad, which also his dad was a doctor. I mean, he still is. He's not deceased or anything. And I dated him for 2.5 years. To the day that we broke up for good, I had to call him Dr. and Mrs. Meeker. That's weird. That's weird. 2.5 years? What? Anyway, when there's issues between spending time with their friends and family, that reduces the satisfaction that you feel within the relationship because you feel tension. You feel as though you are put in the middle of these important people. So how do we use nonverbal communication to recognize romantic problems? So researchers, therapists use nonverbal communication to determine if these problems exist. So the first, extended proxemic zones for extended periods of time. So one of you sleeps on the couch. That's a romantic problem. Second, there's a decrease in touching behaviors. And third, there's minimal eye contact or mutual gaze. So you know when you're mad at your significant other, and this is something that I think females do more than males. Not that I'm like judging or stereotyping. I'm definitely guilty of it, but this is why I don't think any male has ever done this to me. But we're in the car and we're driving somewhere and I'm mad at him. So I turn my legs away, right? My legs, because I can't go very many places in the front seat of a car, but my legs are now facing the door basically. And I'm looking out the window. That's a problem. So we can start to recognize all of these problems just based on the nonverbal communication that's going on. Okay. So with this next couple of slides, we talk about emojis and romantic partners. So CMC, which we'll talk about later in the semester, there's this lack of nonverbal cues, or that's what it's thought, that can increase ambiguity, meaning that we have these negative consequences in maintaining our relationships, and that causes misunderstandings. But we often have personalized elements such as emoticons or emojis that help us convey emotion, which may help people to express affection and increase closeness to their significant other. So think back to texts that you've sent your significant other, whether it has been a former partner or a current partner. Oh, do you use emojis? Right? Like, I always send Richard the poop emoji. There's no reason for it. But I tell him, you know, he works nights, so I tell him when I'm going to bed, I say, good night, love you, poop emoji. I could be cute and send the kissy lip heart one or the heart eyes or whatever. My words tell him. But that's become a thing for us, so now he sends that back as well. And that helps express our closeness. So everybody in the study was shown a fake text message screenshot between a romantic couple. And the text initiator asked, what are we doing later today? And then people began to read different replies. So skipping forward a couple slides, because these are just, it's the same information, but it's repeated a couple different times. Study 1, the replies were either positive or negative, and they either included A, no additional emotional cue. So, no period, exclamation point, anything like that. B, and B, additional emotional words, so I'm happy or I'm sad. Or C, an emotional, an additional emoji, so a smile or a frown. So the results showed that when replies were positive, including an emoji actually did nothing additional. So it didn't matter if you had it in there or not. However, when replies were negative, the emoji elicited greater perceptions of interest in the relationship. So what are we doing later tonight? Nothing, I have to go to my sister's ballet. Thumbs down, right? That shows like I'm interested in you. So the main implication was using emojis to address relationships can be beneficial, but only if the replies are negative. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. They don't add anything positive. So the second study, replies were all negative because of the first study finding, and they either included no additional emotional cue and an additional emotional word or words, or additional emojis, so smile or frown. Replies were either about a less serious issue, like, hey, I have to go to my sister's ballet, or a more serious issue. Hey, I can't go out, grandpa died, right? That's going to be more serious than like, I can't meet up with you, my sister has a ballet. So for less serious issues, the emoji perceived a more positive reaction, which increased the perception of interest. Oh my gosh, in the relationship compared to no emotional cues, right? So if nothing additional is happening, and you just have that, or you have that and an emoji, it shows that you're interested. I have to go to my sister's ballet. Frown. Okay, that's for less serious issues. For more serious issues, replying with emotional words was perceived as more positive. So, hey, I can't go out with you tonight. Grandpa died. By saying, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Maybe, do you need anything? I'm so sad to hear that. That was perceived as more positive, increasing the perception of interest in the relationship when compared to replying with an emoji, right? So for the serious relationships, using emotional words was better. The emoji actually made it seem more negative, right? Can't go out tonight, grandpa died. And then your partner sends back, no, don't do that. Don't be that person. So the main implication from the study, less serious issues, use the emotion in at least some way. More serious issues, reply with emotional words. Otherwise, you're perceived negatively, which is going to decrease the perception that you are interested. There is a TED Talk video that you should watch. It is called Failing in Love, or Failing in Love. No, Falling. Why does it say failing? I promise I can spell most of the time. Falling in Love is the easy part. I think it's like 20 minutes. And then we're going to talk about cross-sex friendships. So these are platonic friendships between males and females. Benefits, they are very rewarding for both the male and female. But women report cross-sex friendships as less demanding and more enjoyable, right? So these relationships are platonic, they are intimate, they are affectionate, they are not sexual. Both people are feeling rewards, but women are saying, I prefer this to a same-sex friendship. It's less demanding, right? So think back to any female that's like, I only hang out with guys. They're less drama. It's that idea because they're less demanding. You don't have to constantly share what you're feeling or talk about feelings or talk about anything. However, there is the potential for disadvantages which you're not typically going to experience in a same-sex relationship or friendship, I'm sorry. First, most are characterized by an underlying sexual tension. So one of the friends in this platonic friendship has sexual feelings towards the other one. It happens. And then the one that doesn't have the sexual feelings has to friend zone. It's bad. And there, within these relationships, these friendships, it is more likely that you will experience misunderstandings. Females and males don't have the same types of cues, and therefore they may not pick up on what you're trying to say. Within cross-sex friendships, there's also uncertain norms. So for proxemic zones and haptic behaviors, these can create social awkwardness. So this uncertainty does decrease over the time as the relationship grows, right? So when you first become friends with somebody of the opposite sex, can I stand this close to them without it being weird? Can I hug them if they do something cool, right, or good? But it's not only these uncertain norms that can cause these difficulties, it's also the social perceptions of others. So anytime you are in a cross-sex friendship, people often say, oh, I bet they have something going on, right? Oh my God, they have to be going out. Or they might put pressure on you. Oh, you two would make such a cute couple. This causes difficulties because maybe one of you or neither of you want to be in a romantic relationship with the other, right? Life is not always a Taylor Swift music video where you fall in love with your best friend who happens to live next door to you. Sometimes it is, but not always. Same-sex friendships are not as often characterized by the sexual tension, but they do have difficulties with power and resources. So, focusing on male-male relationships first. These are often associated with competitiveness and dominance, right? Male-male friendships are often competing with each other. I did this the best. I did this first. There were these two guys in my high school that were really gross that prided themselves on sleeping with as many women as possible. It was disgusting. And they would constantly brag about it in front of each other. And this was a way to assert their dominance. Oh, I've slept with more than you have. Better catch up. I mean, you literally heard them saying stuff like that in the hall. It was gross. Male-male friendships, again, not all relationships are this way. I'm not trying to say that they are. But male-male friendships are typically task-oriented and they are built around shared activities. So we became friends because we both like snowboarding. We became friends because we like woodworking or whatever it is. We're going to build a tree house. We became friends. These nonverbal behaviors typically include increased space. I use this example all the time for this, but there's a video. It's like a Vine. It's very old, I think. But there's this video where it's two men in a hot tub and it's a person up on a really high floor and they're like, two men in a pool, but they're not gay because they're 5 feet away. Right? I'm not a good singer and that's not the exact wordage. But there is this increased space because God forbid somebody sees you're standing a foot apart rather than 5 feet apart and gets the wrong idea. Or, people see people standing so close and then they automatically must be in a same-sex relationship, right? It's one of those that kind of dumb. There's minimal eye contact because there are certain perceptions about men who use increased eye contact, and there's minimal touching behavior. Female-female friendships, however, are increased by emotional connections in comparison to male, right? So we bonded on an emotional level. These are more characterized by positive social support and open communication. We talk about our feelings. We talk about what's going on. We talk about what's going on in our lives. We support each other, female-female relationships. So on Instagram, it could be on any post. A female-female friendship. You see a girl post a picture and she looks great. Maybe it's not her best picture, but whatever. She looks great. Own that. But then her best friend is commenting underneath, yes, queen, wifey goals, heart eyes, fire, 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 right? It's all this stuff. You're not going to see that in a male-male friendship because that social support would lead to perceptions of, you know, maybe things that one or both male friends would not want to be thought about them. Not saying that they're right in any aspect of it, but it's one of those things that you're not going to see a male-male friendship characterized by that. And nonverbal behaviors typically include closer proxemic zones, mutual gazing, touching, more effective interpretation of relational gestures, right? So I'm going to sit right next to you. Females will sit right next to each other on each other's laps. They'll look into each other's eyes. They'll lean in when they talk. They'll have more effective interpretation of the signals that their friend is sending. If I were to send either my best friend Lindsay or my best friend Anna signals like, get me out of here, this person is crazy, I need to leave, they're going to pick up on that and come up and rescue me. They're going to pick up on it and say, hey, we need to go here, or let's go do this. Obviously, the activity that you see on page 219, you're welcome to do it, but it will not be counted for any points. It won't be collected or anything. But if you just want to see how you would get a first date using these 5 relational developmental maintenance behaviors, you're more than welcome to. So I hope this was helpful. I won't see you at the next video, but you'll see me at the next video.